All right, cool. Now that we're back from break, we are going to get into a discussion of the cultural impact of Black Panther and then also discuss dealing with grief and loss. So, just like the Talikins and Namor, it's time for our deep dive. So, kicking off with the first part, we're going to touch on the culture. So, if one of you guys want to start with describing the hype around the first movie and what it meant to you.
I'll give that to Donovan.
Yeah. Yeah. Black Panther, the first movie for sure, was sort of like it was a time stop for Black people everywhere. And even though, a lot of people would call it, the first Black Marvel movie, but we give that to Blade or I forget the other one. Spawn's not Marvel,
Spawn.
but Marvel or Black comic book movie would go later or Spawn. But I think even the having it be Marvel movie in today's Marvel is much different from a Marvel movie in that day's Marvel. So having like a not full Black cast, but a majority Black cast focused on Black culture in Africa, the first movie really sold you on the pride you can have from being from Africa, for having Black skin, for being a part of that culture, because a lot of Black people in America are disconnected from that culture. I'm disconnected from African culture. And I know Wakanda isn't a real place, but it definitely had very real African inspiration from it. And it sort of introduced a lot of people to that culture. And what it meant to me was sort of opening. Like I said, I started from Sam Raimi Spider-Man. So from there to Black Panther and not really seeing a Black lead in my lifetime. Because Blade came out in my lifetime, but I was a little bit too young, so my parents didn't want me to watch it.
That makes sense.
But having a full cast like that, with actual I guess real world stakes and values through the villain Killmonger, which it was opening and it was a conversation starter.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, Meech.
Yeah, I'd definitely say like the hype was insane. Especially like when it comes like he was announced in Civil War and then got his own movie which focused on on African culture, the African roots. It really gave us like it was like, oh man, like modern day, like you didn't see that much. Like you saw like a bunch of other superheroes, like Spider-Man, Batman, Superman, all the same race. And then if you saw like any Black hero like Falcon, they were relegated to a sidekick or
War
like a
Machine.
War Machine sidekick. But in reality, like this was one of the first times you had a Black lead, like a lead superhero, and like he would take the whole show, predominant Black cast. It was just amazing, and especially considering like who was directing it with Ryan Coogler and like his repertoire and his filmography, which were
Fruitvale Station, boy.
like, do I need to say more? Like you knew like going into like he is going to hit and hit he did. Like that first movie was so great, it was so powerful. Again, as Donovan said, conversation starters. Like I rewatched that movie so many times. In fact, this was one of the few times for like a Marvel movie in which my mother and my grandmother went and saw it without me.
Wow.
Like because I was in college when it came out, so I saw it and they went and saw it and told me about it. I was like, I was like, wow, y'all went and saw it? Oh man, hold up. So that definitely lets you know, like it was like this was something else, and this was definitely a movie to remember.
Yeah. So both y'all kind of really touched on what I was thinking about the hype. So I don't remember if the Black Panther movie was announced before his appearance in Civil War or not, but I know like
Same time.
okay, so around the same time. So I remember it was supposed to be like that very next year. So Civil War came out like 2016, but then that's when Spider-Man entered the MCU from Sony allowed them to show it, so it pushed it back. And I remember I was like, I was kind of mad, but Spider-Man is my favorite hero, so it was kind of like 50-50 with that. So definitely just his first appearance, the first movie. I remember I was in college too. We had the whole back row in the theater, just me and my friends. Like it was packed. Just like the Wakandan salute, people talking with different accents coming out of it, just wild and out, the outfits. And you were right, Donovan, like not even just like taking pride in it, because I feel like there is like a sense of, okay, we're Black, we take pride in that, but it's like you can celebrate being Black because you are. And it's just like, it's something to be celebrated, not something like in spite of, but to just celebrate it because. And that's what was so exciting to see that. So like the transition in this movie was kind of just like rough because of real life situation. But in the first one, just like the celebration of it. And both of you are right with like the lead actor being Black. So y'all did touch on Blade and also Spawn, but there was another one in the Trash-tastic Four where Michael B. Jordan was, you know, we don't talk about that movie though. So that didn't exist. So now just like even having this first Black lead. So this is going to kind of transition into the next topic. So I'll take it what it meant to me. So like, why does this character movie stand out more than other Black superheroes? Wasn't a sidekick like War Machine and Falcon, both sidekicks. But even getting deeper into it, so like Luke Cage and Black Lightning, both were leads in shows. And I love both those shows. But one thing that I really hated was that it's the same show. So you have tall, dark and handsome main character that's like a pillar of the community or working in the pillar of the community. They don't want to be a hero anymore, but they both get dragged in because a gang attacks that pillar of the community and takes someone that they care about. So then it's like they have to fight a gang led by a Black person that is more or less ashamed of being Black and wants the higher position and go legit from being in a gang. And with that, it's like, oh, they also have to fight the government or a shadow organization in the government that is quote unquote the man. So like what's so tough to me and why I hate that is because not all Black people are in gangs and not all Black people that are smart are exceptional Black people. Like it's not something that should be like, oh, here's the 5 smart Black people and the rest are just like poor or like in the hood. And that like, I hate that so much. So like seeing Wakanda Black Panther, it's like, you can take pride of it, you can celebrate it, and guess what? The villain can just be a villain. He could be a Thanos level, or as we're going to see later, a King level villain, and it doesn't have to be a gang. So, like, why does it stand out so much to you guys?
Oh man, I want to say like he really stood out to me because of the fact like in the comic books like there's just so much history, and like it takes the history of like African culture and like African like history in a society, and it molds it, right? It molds it to like a superhero concept, and pretty much like doesn't make fun of it, doesn't like poke fun at it, instead like enhances it. And it really like dives deep into the root of a person, like and as you mentioned, like it gives a bunch of kids, like especially kids nowadays, like a hero to look up to and say like, hey, this person, like he is your role model. Like, and as you said, like you don't have to have like a villain be, you know, the stereotypical villain that like most others would probably, or like other races try to think us as, you know, being the like angry, aggressive, like gangsters, drugs, pill pushing, and all that just nonsense. Because like we kind of moved past that mostly. Keyword is mostly. But yeah, so like essentially like it just proves like, hey, it gives a much more well-rounded aspect of Black culture and African culture, and like and just the hype around it, and like who T'Challa is, especially in the comics, is just like, yeah, you could not pick a better person to embrace like the Black culture and give respect to it.
Yeah, all good points. To me, I guess the character itself is not even that deep. we had a Marvel encyclopedia growing up, and I would like flip through it as a child. I would only really look at the pictures. And there was a page for Black Panther, and he's just in this all black gold chain, gold eyes, gold claws. I don't remember the artist who drew it or who drew that run, but I was like, this is the coolest character I've ever seen in my life. Like, why wouldn't I like this character? And so it's just that was what really is it. Like he's just cool. And then watching the movie and learning more about his character, I think it started to stand out more because Black people don't have that highlight on them usually. I mean, you brought up Black Lightning and the whole idea of like all Black superheroes get lightning powers in some shape or form. You know, there's Storm, Black Lightning, Static, and I'm probably missing thousands of others.
Oh, there's a lot.
There's way more you think.
But like, but no, this guy is and I guess I can just go off the movies. In Infinity War, he was the one keeping up with Captain America. In Civil War, he was chasing down Bucky riding in a motorcycle.
Swapping hands with all of them.
Yeah, fighting everybody. And Black Panther, he was running on buildings and fighting entire armies, RKO and rhinos. And it's like, wow, this character is just he's made to shine. And they never stray away from his indifference to a regular superhero, like the trend of Black people having lightning powers. Like he has that stardom power, that leader of the team power that Black people usually don't get. But yeah.
Yeah, that was definitely a good point. So just even going from there, we kind of touched on the impact of Chadwick's passing and how you viewed this movie. If y'all have anything else to say, you can kind of add to it, or then we can just go to the cultural themes you picked up on.
Yeah, I think even like from the first trailer, it puts you in the mood of remembrance, of loss, of grief, but it doesn't. I should say the movie doesn't make you stay in it in the sense of okay, feel sad, always feel sad. But the movie, especially in that last scene, is like it's okay to feel sad right now, but prepare for the future. You know, the future gets better. There is something up on the horizon. And the scene with his son, and him taking his name and sort of continuing his legacy. Not that, you know, that actually continues the legacy of Chadwick, but just having that metaphor of life gets better. Life goes on. And yeah, that's really all I got.
Yeah, I don't think there's much else I can add to it, just besides the themes and cultural impacts of it itself. I mean, we all touched on how it basically affected all of us, and just what Chadwick's role as Black Panther really meant to us. I mean, there's nothing more I can add to that.
Yeah, I'll just add a little bit. I know that when people pass away, it's easy to kind of deify them in a sense. So just even with that, like none of us are pretending that we knew him personally or like we're friends with him or like how some people would do when people pass away. But that doesn't nullify the impact that he had on like our lives with that. And just how much I remember getting the text from my sister about it because she just sent me the Instagram link. And then I was reading it. I was like, this is like, it didn't register with me when I read it the first few times. And then I was just like, oh. And then something else that we can touch on is just his strength. Like he filmed the Black Panther movie sick that entire time and didn't tell anybody about it, didn't complain about it. That's just powerful in the sense of just like that strength that he projected and just the love that we had for that character. If we talk about, go to the end of Infinity War when you watched it and think about the theater reactions. There were 2 reactions when the characters passed away where the entire theater like just like shouted, wailed, was in disbelief. And that was Black Panther and Spider-Man. And those were the loudest reactions when people got turned to dust. So that definitely just was powerful in how we, so like even cultural themes, something that I just want to touch on. None of us are Latino. I don't think you are either, Donovan, but just like them getting a real look too, just like the Mesopotamians, South American respect to that culture. Just with that, they got a good look. And I'm pretty sure there are a lot of Latino American fans of Marvel that did appreciate that. And the fact that Namor didn't get killed, we'll get to see him more. Going from there, we're just going to have an open discussion on grief. And just with that, like it was probably the main theme of the movie. I'm just going to throw out a few things. Like there are definitely a lot of emotions that you have with it. And then we saw with Shuri just like where it can lead you to dark paths at times. So if y'all just want to take it from there.
Yeah, definitely. Like of course we all know about, the stages of grief, right? And essentially like you get a look into, in my opinion, there are like aspects of like each stage throughout the entire movie. Like Shirley went through denial through a good portion of it. It's like, hey, I'm not like willing to like, which said like, I'm not gonna think about my brother and his passing because if I do, I'm gonna burn the world. That was kind of like her, and like her working all the time. It was kind of like denial transitioning into anger throughout the rest of the movie. There's the bargaining stage where like she was with Namor and was talking about, hey, why do I have like all of these capabilities and yet like I couldn't save my brother? And like she understood that like, hey, my brother's gone and there's no way to get him back. But like I don't know how to move forward from there. It's like it was only really towards the end of the movie where she fully like accepted the passing and like she was fully able to embrace that grief. And as you mentioned, and as we mentioned throughout the entire thing, grief was all over the place. Like you had all of Wakanda, which was in grief. Hey, Queen Ramonda was in grief for most of the movie because even though like she was trying to be strong, and that's like another aspect of grief that like I can really attest to is just the feelings like, hey, like we're all grieving right now, but like I gotta be the strong one. I gotta be the one to like kind of hold it together to be there for the rest of the family and the rest of the group and the rest of the kingdom. Like that's like I believe like that's what Queen Ramonda kind of like represented. Like she's trying to like keep it and hold it together. And I think especially during the throne room scene when she yells at Okoye, that's when like she let it all out.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it definitely on Shuri. It's funny because when I got home from watching the movie, I finally calmed down, laid down in my bed, and then like as my brain was calming down, I was like, oh, she hit every single stage of grief. And I like got back up and started to think about it more. But yeah, Shuri is sort of, I feel like our vehicle to experience every single stage of grief. I feel like all of the characters do hit different points. There's the Queen who I feel like hits almost the same amount as Shuri. There's even M'Baku in the scene after the Queen dies, where he is trying to console Shuri, but he's really like, well, to be honest with you, I need help right now. And there's Okoye with it's sort of grief, but losing her position, and trying to be used to being the civilian, or get used to being a civilian and recognizing her failure. And so there's just the grief keeps popping up in tons of different characters throughout the movie. And I think it does a good job with Shuri's story and even the Queen in M'Baku, with Shuri it being the worst for her, because not only did she lose her brother, but she lost her mom. And I believe the only time she ever cries is the very last scene. I might have to double check that.
I think maybe her mom.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
the brothers at the funeral and when her mom dies
Okay.
But
and the
like
funeral for that.
genuine tears of
Yeah, genuine.
processing, yes.
Yeah, yeah. Because I remember, I was loosely remembering when the mother actually dies. If she was like just angrily screaming or actually crying, it's probably a little bit of both.
Hmm.
But yeah, the very ending shot with her crying is the perfect ending to, I feel, probably any Marvel movie. With all of the emotions from the movie and the life itself, with their montage and tribute to Chadwick, um, and just like finally letting out, okay, I'm sad, I have to process these emotions. And she hits that acceptance part where in the beginning, that's where I feel like the denial and acceptance is. The denial is burning her funeral clothes, and the acceptance is the very end when she finally does do it.
Yeah. Yeah. So the definition of grief is deep sorrow, especially that's caused by someone's death, or the informal version is trouble or annoyance. But just with that, grief doesn't necessarily have to be the loss of someone dying, but it can be the loss of anything and just deep sorrow that overtakes us. I think even just a grief that people feel often is just like people not being in your lives anymore. From the standpoint, it could be death, it can be just moving away. I know just like when I was younger, literally every best friend I had from like third through fifth grade moved away to a point where I was just like, yo, I'm not gonna have any best friend. Like I can have friend groups, which has kind of helped me like navigate dealing with different people, but like trouble of just like having that one go-to person because not having like
Mhm.
the trust of like, okay, they're gonna leave me every time I get associated with them, every time I open myself up. Grief can also just be with losing uh, a significant other to whatever circumstances, a family member that you just had a falling out with, maybe losing a job that you loved, other things like that, or hobby goals, dreams. So just like grief with that is something that I think so many people can connect with. And it's so easy to bury it. You're right that like Shuri was our vehicle with this because with her, I could see like different aspects if you replace T'Challa with like this in my life where it's like, okay, I can see how I'm processing it through that.
Yeah, yeah. That's a like really great point when it comes to like, hey, grief is like doesn't have to necessarily uh just be the loss of a person. It can be anything. Like as Donovan was saying, it's like when it came to Okoye and like losing her position in Dora Milaje, like you could just like she was kind of going through it as well. Like in the brief interaction you see with her before things go south and like her trying her best to like help as much as possible even though like she's still dealing with it. I think like that's like another telling sign. You can even say like with when it comes to people like Killmonger uh Namor, like they were going
Mhm.
through grief as well. Like grief for their people, but when it comes to that, it's just like how they like decide to express and like move from that. That's like what's telling of a person. It's like when it comes to like Shuri, like she decided like keep holding it inwards, and then like eventually like she was able to let it out and to eventually like move on. Hopefully by the like at the end of the movie and then come to like Namor or Killmonger, like they it's like they held on to it so tightly that they decided to spread their aggression out to outwards towards the rest of the world,
Mhm.
which is
Yeah.
yeah. What were you gonna
Oh,
say?
I was going to Killmonger um, have such mirrored quests from the first two or from the first movie and this one, and the more seeing his people enslaved and treated unfairly, and from that point on, even as a child, he was like, okay, if it's on the surface, I hate it. And him, eventually getting to the point where he is now, where he's like, okay, I want to go to war with the surface. And then a similar way of Killmonger, like, oh, my people are enslaved all over, or were enslaved all over the world. Some still are in different ways, but if I get the power of Wakanda, I can free them. I can do what's right. And that mirror being even elevated through the throne room scene when she takes the heart shaped herb and sees Killmonger. He's like, "Oh, you took my mom away from me. You destroyed my hometown. You destroyed my people. So I'm going to come after you." And that builds on the idea of, like you were saying, how uh, grief between not just loss, but grief for circumstances leads us to making rash and sometimes dangerous decisions. And I guess my closing for the brief section would be the final scene, and where you see Queen Rwanda say, "Show them who you are." And I forgot what she said when she brought Shuri to the river in the first scene, but she said something along the lines of, like, she went there and she felt T'Challa touch her and speak to her. And I think that was the callback that they were referring to, is that in that moment to kill somebody, she really did the ritual all over again. She was in front of the water, and her mom reached out, touched her, and then spoke to her, and was able to break that cycle that Killmonger and Namor were in, or not cycle, but that status of wanting to get revenge that Killmonger and Namor was in through that grief.
That's a great point, because Shuri, like, when she responded to that scene, she was like, "It's just a construct in your head to make you feel better. It's not really him touching." And for that to kind of connect is powerful. Yeah. So do you guys have anything else?
No.
Nah,
All right.
I think we covered it.
Yeah. So just to wrap that up, if you're going through debrief, whatever that may be, just like reach out to who you need to reach out to. If you need to get professional help, in a sense, do that. Don't hold it in, and take the time to process it. If that means you have to get away from the world to do it, get away from the world. If that means you have to be around some people and talk to people, definitely do that. So yeah, you got something?
Oh yeah, I was also going to piggyback off that and say, like, hey, just know that, like, you're not alone in the grief. It's like you may think like you might be alone, that you may think no one can understand like what you may be going through at the current moment, but like chances are there are like there are a lot of people who maybe experienced something similar or may have gone through something similar to what you've had. And if you go through that, then just know that, like, hey, it's okay. Like that's another thing. Just take time and process, because it's okay to grieve. It's not weakness to cry.
Yeah, thanks for that. So going from there, we are going to get into our next sponsor for the day. And for our sponsor of the day, we have Vibranium Vibrations. Want to get ahead on your dance moves? Keep up with the latest trends? Come down to Vibranium Vibrations, which is a weekly dance course provided by the Dora Milaje, which also doubles as a combat readiness course. You'll see gains after 60 days, and all women are automatically recruited for service. There will be no refunds provided, and Vibranium Vibrations is not responsible for any injuries. All right, now that we came up for air, we're going to get into a bit more lighthearted. This is just a mini dive looking at the future of Marvel moving forward, and have a bigger discussion, particularly on Marvel Phase 5. With that, we are going to have one of our favorite segments, one that I'm still on probation from. I will get off eventually, hopefully.
Never.
So, Donovan, can you hit us with the random fan theory of the week?
All right, I have a personal one. I don't have full trust in it because I know it's a different character. But with them gearing up for Young Avengers and Riri being introduced in this movie, but also T'Challa son being introduced in this movie. I know T'Challa has a son with Storm, who I forget his name, but he was in one of the animated movies I watched as a child. I believe called The Next Avengers. I don't think it was his son in the movie, but I would love to see if that, probably not Phase 5, but That would be my fan theory. Even in the movie, when he was like, "Can you keep the secret?" When he was talking to Shuri, I thought he was gonna like zap the fire or something. I'm like, "Oh, there it is, there it is." But no, they kept it sweet and wholesome. So that was good.
Something that I think the fans would like to know, Meech, is your Chick-fil-A sauce technique. I found it very interesting.
Oh, really? Really? Okay, okay. I'm pretty sure it's not exactly a thing like I'm pretty sure a lot of people know about it, just taking the uh like how normally you just pour the sauce onto the sandwich or you may dip the thing in the sandwich, you like and take a bite of that. I think it's a bit messy, especially like if you're like in certain places like a movie theater. Yes, I did sneak Chick-fil-A into the movies. I do not care. I am him. You will never catch me slipping. Uh and this is how I get banned from every movie theater on the planet. But hey, y'all never gonna find which one's me. But essentially, like what I do is like, okay, the bag that the Chick-fil-A sandwich comes in, I take the chicken fillet out, I put it in the bag, I pour my sauces in there, shake it up so that way it gets coated in the sauce. Put it back on the bread, pour whatever sauce is left in the bag onto the sandwich, and then have a good time. I mean, it's simple as that.
Nah, you might be a genius. I might need to do that.
Yeah, it's easy. It's like it's relatively clean, and you don't have to worry about sauce dripping everywhere.
Yeah, when you were shaking it, I was like, "What is going on next to me?" Like I was confused, but then I recognized the full process, and I was like, "Okay, I'm with it." So on that lighthearted note, just to bring it back, now we're going to get into what we want to see. Well, where does Marvel go next, and then what we want to see next. So let me read off the list of Phase 5 specifically. I'm not going to get into Phase 6 at the moment. So for the film wise, we have Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, and then the Marvels for 2023. These are all confirmed movies. There is some other speculation, but for what's confirmed, I'm just going to touch on that. Then we have in 2024, Captain America: New World Order, Thunderbolts, and then Blade, quote unquote. There is, like I mentioned, Deadpool has a confirmed. Tom Holland signed up for 6 more Spider-Man. Well, 6 appearances as Spider-Man, 3 Spider-Man films, and then 3 other appearances. Going from there. And then Armor Wars, I'm not sure when that's going to come out because it was going to be a TV show, but now they're going to make it as a movie. For the TV series, we have Secret Invasion, which comes out next year, Echo, Loki Season 2, Ironheart, which I don't know if it's going to be a part of Armor Wars or not, Agatha, Coven of Chaos, and then Daredevil, Born Again. So we can just kind of go from there.
Oh yeah, yeah. As I said, things about to look good. And like at least for the Guardians 3, like this is gonna be probably the last one because James Gunn's heading over to DC land and to go fix that mess, and decide to grace us with his plan. So expect that one to be like a fun ride. I'm pretty sure like that one's probably gonna like tie in with more of the cosmic realm because right now we're dealing more multiversal stuff. So things like, as I said, Kang the Conqueror, pretty much as we mentioned with Phase 6, like it's gonna lead to Secret Wars, and just hopefully that movie gonna go dummy. And by dummy I mean like that one's gonna be the movie where I hope everybody comes back. Like it's gonna basically be like how Endgame was, but just everybody. And if you can't get everybody, that's fine. That's okay. But as many people as possible, I think that would be like a major treat to the fans, or at least see different variants of the same character.
Do you think Gamora comes back? Do you think Gamora comes back in Volume 3?
Gamora? Oh yeah.
Mhm.
Oh yeah, yeah. She has to come back because of the fact of like what her character like pretty much left off as. Essentially, in fact, I believe Zoe Saldana, the actress who plays Gamora, stated dissatisfaction with just how her character ended up because the fact like her character arc kind of concluded in Infinity War, and then she gets killed off, but then comes back, but is it at a place before her character development starts? So it's like she's back at square one.
Right.
So she is hammering home for her character to get developed back to essentially like where she was before. So she definitely has to come back for part 3.
Mhm.
Yeah. I also think it would be cool to see her in more of her role as the galaxy's deadliest woman, because we saw it a little bit in the first Guardians movie, but she sort of instantly went into her hero role. And I know that she's not with the Guardians anymore because of Thor. So it'd be cool if we should see her around the galaxy, away from the squad.
Mhm. Yeah. Anything else you think Marvel's going to touch on with just like what I listed?
Uh,
Um, Go ahead, Meech. I still got to think about it.
oh yeah. All right. So, all right, just letting you guys know right now, Secret Invasion is probably not going to be the way you think it's going to be. It's not going to be like the comic book event in the sense of like Skrulls taking over everybody and all the superheroes. I don't think that's going to happen. I think it's going to be like a much more like a smaller scale version with just like maybe like rogue agents that may have gone that got Secret Invasioned. But yeah, it's like besides that, as I mentioned, like Ironheart gonna be crazy. Ironheart gonna be hilarious.
Mhm.
And I know like Loki. I really hope like with Loki season 2, think like I want that one to tie more to the like more into like the Kang and the multiversal angle because that's where it kind of got introduced at. So
It
like
has
it
to,
would
yeah.
so it kind of has to follow that line. Otherwise, what are you doing? But I trust the process. Then Daredevil Born Again. Mm, mm.
Well, that's where we know we're getting Spider-Man again with that.
You darn right. You darn right. Because I need Parker and Matt to be together once again, uh, in their suits. That's the big deal. I need them to be in their suits. I need them to fight Vincent D'Onofrio as Kingpin. I need to see it happen. It's like you have to have Spider-Man fight Kingpin on screen, like because
But
that's
didn't
his
he
villain.
die?
No, he didn't die. He did not die at all because of the fact that exact same scenario happened in the comics and he lived
Mhm.
because I think he got shot in the chest. So he obviously gonna live that. And you ain't gonna kill off Vincent D'Onofrio like that. Nah, I ain't buying it.
Yeah, not after just bringing them back.
Yeah. So
But
you got anything, Donovan?
yeah, I heard, and I'm kind of agreeing with this whole idea that the Thunderbolts are finna get rolled in their movie. And the whole idea of or that coming after Captain America: New World Order, just based off the title alone, sort of makes me think as Shield goes further into. And actually, this is a question I had about this movie. Um, Valentina is the director of Shield now, or was he talking about someone else?
No,
CIA, I
she's the
believe.
Oh,
CIA.
CIA. Okay, yeah, because yeah, I remember him saying something about the new director is all over him, things like that, and then they brought in Valentina. But
Mhm.
basically with Kang gaining more and more power in the background, and as he probably will gain even more power in Quantum Mania, I think that is the one, not the one, but a big uh, enemy or type of enemy that they have no idea how to fight because they fought aliens.
Mhm.
They've fought with magic. They fought with governmental powers, but they have not fought a time traveler across the multiverse. So I think that they might get sent out to fight Kang, and they will get rolled. I don't know who will die, but I don't think they will win.
Yeah, there's this cool scene from Comic-Con with King where he has a bar. I'm not gonna say it since like it wasn't in the trailer, but let's just say like he will body the Avengers given the chance.
Okay.
Woo, I'm
So
ready.
so with that, I think they're gonna do two things in phase five. They're gonna introduce the X-Men in some form. I don't think like the full X-Men team will get introduced until Secret Wars. That way it'll set up going into the King Dynasty. And then number two, they're going to introduce that Fantastic Four separately, or at least like two members at a time, or like one member here and there. Just because I don't think the first time we see the real not the Reed Richards that was introduced in Doctor Strange, but like whoever gets cast as the new one, Thing, Johnny Storm, and then Sue Storm, whoever, I think they're going to introduce them separately, just so we can get a familiarization with the character. Like, think about Black Panther, he got introduced before his movie. Spider-Man got introduced before Homecoming. Even just if you think about the early MCU, Black Widow got introduced, I believe, in Iron Man 2 was before Avengers, so she got introduced then. We saw just other characters like that get introduced before their actual movies. So I think we're going to see different characters. And then the fact that they have been saying mutant more openly, we're going to see that. And we're also going to see Doctor Doom.
Oh, have to. I like that theory. I think the only thing about that is the fact that like this is the third introduction of them. It's like they're not gonna like rehash the origins again because it's basically a Spider-Man scenario.
Right.
So I think like instead of maybe two at a time, they might just throw them out there and just be like, yep, here they are. Or at most like kind of do it like, okay, just have the most recognizable member of the Fantastic Four just pop up, kind of like Reed Richards, like the official Reed Richards, maybe like have the Baxter building in the background, just something to let them know like, hey, or heck, you just introduce Doom first and just be like, here you go.
Think we see Doom by Secret Wars. Because there was a rumor that there was going to be something about him in the Wakanda Forever, but they took it out. So I think we see Doom in Phase 5.
Yeah, they took it out, but they kept like a tiny hint in with the fact like, hey, when he's talking with Namor, he's like, hey, when we go attack the surface world, we're gonna need their help to conquer. Like when they were talking about like, there's this specific nation out there that they were talking about. So like, I was like, oh, they talking about Latveria.
Okay, yeah.
I think good.
And also, don't forget, Deadpool 3 is supposed to drop in Phase 6, so mutants all the way for that one.
All right, so where does Wakanda go next?
I actually am really excited about this because sort of like you guys were saying, how Namor won because the rest of the world still doesn't know about the Telecon. So they still are under the belief that all the attacks done to them were by the Wakandans. And, Ross was only, backing them off for so long. And now that he's been arrested and then rescued by a Wakandan, they're definitely going to start gearing up to fight Wakanda. So I think it might, or not for sure, but most likely the outposts around the world or outsourcing centers around the world are going to close down and they're going to become more reclusive and maybe even not be seen in the larger, I guess, governmental watched fights, sort of like the Thunderbolts or the next Captain America, or even any SHIELD projects going on, that they might just be ostracized again, but this time not by their own choice, which would be, I think, a cool development for.
All right, cool. I think like firstly, I just want to say like, hey, when it comes to like the most popular like relationship between for like Black Panther is obviously with Storm. And because of T'Challa's passing, like, hey, what if it's the young T'Challa that gets together with Storm? Like either like Storm's gonna be a kid for like a long time, or like for
I don't think they do that.
It's either that or they age him up, or age like the new T'Challa up, or
you mean like Hulk's son?
Well, he kind of got introduced as an adult, so in the comics, so it was already on site with him, but but like T'Challa, like, hey, new T'Challa maybe either aged up, like whether it's like due to Secret War shenanigans or Kang shenanigans.
That's a good point.
Or because of the fact we're dealing with multiverse and time, and time travel, so like, hey, that child can get aged up and like almost nobody would barely bat an eye about that. Uh, and like that'll be a perfect chance to like have him be Black Panther, to have him be ruler of Wakanda, kind of set everything back to status quo, and even have his Aunt Shuri as another as the second Black Panther in order to like keep both people. But as far as but that's just my wishful thinking. But in terms of like what actually might happen, uh again, I would probably say like it's probably gonna be like like more war in the sense like, hey, America gonna come after them, well, most definitely, and then of course Latveria when it gets introduced is gonna come at them sideways. Of course, like Namor gonna have to come back, especially by the time the X-Men pop up because the fact he a mutant, so he gonna there's it's just gonna be a whole lot of hoopla. Gonna be like a three-way war between Latveria, actually a four-way war: Latveria, Wakanda, Talokan, and then perhaps like even Xavier and Magneto and all the mutants, because like they're gonna be another party that's gonna be interested in this whole scenario.
Yeah. I saw somewhere that Kevin Feige said that Wakandans deserve to have their story told. So I don't know if that means we'll get a Black Panther 3. I think there was a rumored release of a Dora Milaje or Okoye TV show.
TV show. I think
Yeah.
I heard something about that.
Yeah, that sounds familiar.
I'm not 100% sure when that would be, but I do remember seeing that. So that would be definitely cool because we saw that they popped up in The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. So definitely, I think they're going to be like agents working across the world, kind of like how you even mentioned, like they got Agent Ross. So like I think they're just going to be like working all across the world. So definitely interesting to see where it goes from there. Any other thing we kind of touched on where Marvel, anything that you particularly want to see? For me, we're not going to get Battle World, but that would be cool to see. But I already kind of mentioned Fantastic Four and X-Men. So
like you may never know. Secret War might actually go to Battle World. You may never know.
the Beyonder.
All I'm saying is give me that symbiote, boy.
Yeah, that little nugget of symbiote is crawling around somewhere in Mexico, and he's just having the time of his life.
I just need Venom MCU. I don't care. Also, Venom 3 gonna be dropping soon-ish.
Yep.
We about to get some symbiote action, boys.
All right. Yeah, Donovan, anything you got?
Yeah, I definitely got to see the X-Men in the MCU. I think they're in a perfect position in the MCU for them to bring in the X-Men and make the whole humans hating mutants believable, because I don't think any real world power right now likes superheroes in general. So a lot of the talk about the comics of like, oh, why the Avengers loved but X-Men hated would be brought in, perfectly at this time. And then that can even build to a Fantastic Four team, of that being like the new government official stance, because they can't control the Avengers. So having the Fantastic Four in there, or even having that be Doom start, and him shift over to Latveria later, that's what I want to see. I want to see some more politics, funnily enough, in my superhero movie.
Yeah. King aside, Fantastic Four and X-Men are going to make or break Phase 5 and Phase 6.
Yeah.
So,
yep.
So going from there, we're going to get into our recommendations. Anything that you guys have? I don't have too much.
I know for me, I want to shout out a YouTube channel, Internet City. He's about my boys, Mikey and Aaron. And they do like really fun content, about pretty much myriad of topics. They do like anime music reviews or reactions, and then just funny reactions overall, just funny content, and they do many wild things. So I definitely want to give them their recommendation. So Internet City on YouTube, and that's pretty much. And besides like the comic run of Black Panther, as well as the Black Panther movie, you need to go see that. If you want to see like more Black heroes, you can watch the Blade movies. Well, movies as in 1 and 2. Unfortunately, there is no third one, so we can't watch. Unfortunately, there is no more Wesley Snipes after the second one. You can watch
There's a Blade anime style cartoon movie with like
yeah,
Wolverine.
yeah. I almost forgot about like the Marvel anime scene. I was kind of
Oh,
crazy.
yeah.
But yeah, there's that. There's also Spawn. I mean, you can watch that one. Uh, I know Spawn's one of my favorite characters, but that movie kind of rough in a lot of areas.
Watch the TV series.
Oh yeah, watch the TV series. Like that one's better. Go on HBO Max and you got it there. But also another big one, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse.
That's a good
Boom.
point.
No, nothing else needs to be said about that.
Yeah, I watched that movie like 4 times in theaters. So another one, there used to be a Black Panther TV show on BET. That's kind of
Oh,
like stop motion. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about.
yeah. Oh, you just unlocked a memory for me on that one.
So I watched it on YouTube. Well, I think it was like on Netflix and YouTube for a while. You might be able to watch it on YouTube or like check it out on like BT Plus or something like that if you can get a free trial. Another one, it's not really a recommendation, but just keep it on your dial. There's going to be a video game with Black Panther and Captain America set in, I forgot
World War
which
II.
war, World War II. Okay, so it's
Yeah.
set in that time, and it's actually T'Challa's grandpa, I believe. That will come out probably in years, but that's definitely something you can check out. And on Marvel's Avengers video game, which is pretty mid, but there is a Black Panther section to that. And also, you can check him out in Civil War, his first appearance, and then also in Infinity War. And just going from there, so we're kind of wrapping up. We're about to hit our plugs, but with everything, next week we're going to be having our Blurred Thanksgiving. So we're going to have another special guest on. Just we don't know what we're going to talk about yet, but it's going to be a really fun feast and a fun time. So just check us out for that as you get into the holiday season. All right, and hit you up with the plugs now.
All right. So of course we got ourselves our Instagram and our Twitter, which is Blurred City 22. That's where you can find us and all our posts and give us that nice little subscribe and that little follow and check the bell. Go on YouTube with Blurred City Pod and you can do the same thing there. And that way you stay up to date to all our different functions and things that we got going on. We also have our Discord, which is linked in our Instagram page. And then we also have our Patreon, where in which you can just give support to us, and then you can get like episodes early as well as new special episodes that are not found on any podcast platform. So hey, if you want to get extra content with us, go to Patreon. And then finally, we have ourselves our email, which is blurredcity22@gmail.com, where you can submit questions for our Q&A sessions. You can submit Geek Out Freakouts. You can submit random fan theories of the week. We got that. And that's pretty much all we have in terms of my plugs. Hit me with yours.
For my individual author pages, you can catch me on Instagram at Metri_dash, METRI_DASH. And you can check out my Twitter at the Mad-16. So THEMADASH 16. So anything you want to plug, Donovan?
I guess you can follow my Instagram and YouTube. I say I guess because I won't be posting until January, but I will be posting soon. Just finished my script for my comic. So trailers will be releasing on Instagram at Smith Arts Official and on YouTube at just Smith Arts. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
Dope. We'll definitely be following that. So just going from there, we said a lot on this journey, and you can leave the people with words of encouragement.
Yeah, just to wrap up this episode, and the whole idea of grief. I know grief is hard, but I think when we go through grief, we also go through a time of strengthening. We become stronger people as we suffer. It's unfortunate, but it is a way of life. We can't learn how to solve problems if we don't have problems. So if you are having problems, if you are going through grief, my words of encouragement is that it will get better. And when it does, and you can not only see the light at the end of the tunnel, but be at that light at the end of the tunnel, embrace it, feel its warmth, and know that you're a better person because of what you've been through.
Thanks so much for wise words. It was great having you on. Definitely have you on in the future, depending on the projects that just come up. And going from there, it's not goodbye forever. It's just goodbye for now. And that's the Blurred City Pod.
See ya later.
All right. Thanks for having me on.